What is up? This video is on the topic of marriage in Saudi Arabia. Okay, so I'll be talking about three general things. The first being how marriage works. The second being the proposals that I've personally gotten since I've been here. I've only been here 2 years. And lastly, I'll talk a little bit about polygamy. So firstly, how does marriage in Saudi Arabia work? Well, in Saudi Arabia, marriage is largely arranged. And I'm supposing the arranging is done by the parents. Because as you probably know, if you watch some of my other videos, or if you know anything about this area of the world, you know that there is no mixing of the there's no mixing of the genders. Okay? So in public, if you can't meet people, then how on earth would you ever get to a point where you could arrange the marriage? Do you see what I mean? So that's why the parents are largely involved in matching up their sons and daughters with, I guess, whoever they think would be a good fit for their sons or daughters. Okay, so after the arrangement has been made, the man and the woman meet each other. And at this meeting, the female unveils her face and they look at each other, and afterwards they decide if they're going to go through with the marriage or not. Now, as you are probably seeing, this is a really misogynistic practice in that it all comes down to essentially to whether or not the man is attracted to the woman, even though they do both have to agree. There's a doctor who used to work here in Saudi Arabia who had some friend of a friend of the sports team that he was working for bring his sister to have something checked out. And if you can believe this, at one point the girl's brother said, if she shows you her face, you have to marry her. Now keep in mind, this was an appointment to check on whatever was ailing her. And it, you know, if she were to, during that appointment, show the doctor her face, her brother saying that then he would have to marry her. He said that. He said, look, I didn't come here to get married. Another little story I have was told to me by a coworker. And he said that he had been talking to this Saudi girl on Skype for some time and she never unveiled her face. And she told him too that, like, look, if I show you my face, we have to get married. So that's a really kind of interesting cultural marriage practice. I have had students tell me before that their brothers have warned them against working in the public. And this was in a small town, so maybe in the bigger cities it's different. Maybe it's not as frowned upon for women to go into the working world because it's degrading to Saudis. I can't generalize, but I'm guessing to a lot of them to know that their wife would be out in public where other men could look at her. So there's that idea too that you know, the woman's face is for the husband and for the husband only. So obviously you can see how that would affect the working life of women who might want to have that sort of independence. So let's move on to the particular proposals that I've had. Let's start here. So being that I'm American, excuse me, you can imagine that because I live in a developing country and I come from a very powerful country, that I inherently have more value as a woman who could be marriable. And if you take that and you add to it the way that people in this area of the world see marriage as more of an arrangement than like something that's based off of love, then you can see how I could have already gotten 3 marriage proposals and I've only been here 2 years. So one of them was from a really famous soccer player drop dead handsome. However, he's already married and she already had 4 kids and 1 on the way, so I was definitely not interested. Another guy was, he's actually French, but he's got Islamic roots and family from not Saudi, but this, you know, from the Middle East or something like that. And he too very strongly implied that he could take care of me. However, he wasn't taking care of himself in a very like physical sense. Like, he was already like an old man. I went over to hang out with him one day. He lived on the compound as well at the same time. And bless his heart, at one point he pulled out this huge neck brace and put it on his neck. And I'm like, wow, I'm happy that he's protected, because, you know, he's been over for many hours per day working on people's teeth, so he's, you know, having to support his neck for like half an hour every day. I just thought it was a little unflattering and a little strange to like whip out the neck brace when you're, I guess, trying to impress somebody, whatever. So there was that person too. And lastly, there was a Saudi who too implied that I should just give him some time, to give him a month or whatever, presumably to gather money. I think also in this area of the world, you need to prepare some sort of a dowry to give to the wife. What else? Okay, so a little bit about divorce. If you want to get divorced, the man wants to get divorced. It's very easy. He just says, I divorced you, I divorced you, I divorced you 3 times, and it's finished. Halas. You're no longer married to that person. On occasion, you will see Saudi women just sitting, like almost like if you have like homeless people in your city, you know, they're just kind of lingering outside of shops. You know, sometimes they'll be collecting money. I've even seen them doing it in streets, and presumably these are all women who are either divorced or widowed by their husbands. Let's see, what was I going to talk about lastly? Okay, so lastly, polygamy. Personally, I would never ever do it. In this area of the world, it is practiced. The man is able to have up to 4 wives so long as he can afford to house them separately. So in some senses, when you're talking to guys in this area, I mean, especially the one soccer player, he, you know, in Africa, before it became Islamic in many areas, they're already practicing polygamy. So these idea sets kind of welded, came together very, very easily. In some ways, though, for someone who's like a jealous type who doesn't want to share, it can seem like the Muslim man is forever single, right? If he can have up to 4 wives, then in some ways, if they wanted to, he could always be on the lookout, right? That's something that I personally couldn't deal with. I wanted to mention one more thing, but I can't, it left my mind. Let me know what you think about this topic. I hope that you enjoyed the video. I hope to see you later, and bye.